You are watching SHOUTcraft, your esports gateway drug, with myself, Total Biscuit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SHOUTcraft. My name is Total Biscuit. I'm bringing you a match now between Masq in the red trunks playing Protoss in the top left of the Kulas Ravine versus Masq playing the Terran in the blue today. Skip forward just a little bit. Again, nothing interesting in the first minute or so. I'm sure we'll see some determination of strategy momentarily. Both very highly ranked players, both very powerful. Up goes the block with the supply depot right there. Very easy map to block, no big surprises there. There's the pylon already up for Masq. Early scouting for Masq, trying so desperately to find his opponent, hoping that he's there, but of course he is not, and that means that he ain't getting into Masq's base anytime soon, since you can block off, as you can quite clearly see there, with only 2 buildings. So this is a map that does favour, at least in the early game, the Terran players simply for that reason. Not able to get a probe in, not able to scout, so effectively Masq right now flying blind. In the meantime, nothing particularly special. No refineries going up as of yet. Masq investing everything he possibly can into SCVs, pumping out those early minerals. Perhaps relying early on some Marines and just a few basic units maybe. No sign of anything else in terms of his strategy since he's not building refineries. It is a little bit telling, to be honest, since he's pumping out so many SCVs that he might be going for something fairly expensive early on, which would indicate maybe a fast expansion. We'll see how that one goes. In the meantime, Masq with the assimilator indicates Cybernetics core will be coming up as opposed to 2 gateways, so I don't expect to see any early Zealot play. Masq finally locating Masq's base, not finding an awful lot. There goes the orbital command center. You can see the mineral count in the top, very high right now. He's letting it build up. That indicates that we've got an expansion coming up right there. Masq moving his SCV, and one has to imagine that he's going to drop down a command center, and there it goes. Now, on a map like this is absolutely perfect for the Terran fast expand, because you can drop your expansion right there. And it's guarded on both sides by destructible rocks. Very hard to get into, very hard to scout. A good position and a good solid plan for Masq. Second assimilator coming up there as well, certainly going into early cybernetics play. Sentries and Stalkers is the order of the day. Doesn't really want to throw out too many Zealots, and I don't blame him. Not like you want to throw Zealots against a block with ranged units behind it. Generally not a particularly good idea, and since he didn't build 2 gateways early on, it's not like Zealots would really give him any kind of advantage at this point in time. So we can expect to see ranged units try and match the Terran pound for pound in terms of range. That may not be the best of ideas. And another barracks coming up right there as well for Masq. Right now, not really seeing anything at all. I would imagine Masq's going for the economic advantage here with that early fast expansion, and he will get it. He'll be able to hold the line with a very small number of units. You can see he's just building Marines right now. Another barracks coming up at this point in time. Maybe Marines Marauders coming up. That wouldn't really surprise me. He's got 1 refinery, no more. Now, 1 refinery is enough to pump out a certain number of Marauders. You don't need too many. The cost for Marauders is 100 minerals and 25 gas, as well as 2 supply. So it's more important that you're able to pump out a bunch of minerals as opposed to actual gas, since Marauders cost twice as much as Marines. Then again, of course, you might be supplementing them with a large number of Marines, and with that many barracks, now with a 4th one coming up as well, one could not exactly blame him for that. Down it goes, and a very quick upgrade to Orbital Command, certainly pushing the economy out there, as well as going to saturate those points with mules as much as he can, and that will give him the edge. For the moment, Masq and Masq fairly equal in terms of their economies. Mule dropped there for Masq, which will boost him up momentarily. Harvesters, in terms of the number of probes, NASA's got a few more. Again, no surprises there. Chrono Boost allows him to get slightly ahead. Now blowing his way through the rocks with the Marines right now. That'll enable him to get his SCVs up there, build a few extractors, as well as allow him to build any defensive buildings that are necessary. He'll be able to move some of his guys off the mineral line there as he continues to pump out the SCVs from that command center. No early game aggression from Masq, and to be honest, by the looks of it, that's going to be his undoing. Against a fast-expanding Terran, I know it's not a phrase that you hear all that often. Much more often to hear, say, fast-expanding Zerg player. But against a fast-expanding Terran with 2 orbital command centers, you're rapidly looking towards a very heavy economic advantage for the Terran player. And now with 4 barracks up, tech labs on all 3 of those, he'll have just enough gas to pump out a Marauder from each of those plus 1 extra. And if you have a look at the production right now, he's also got his Terran infantry weapons upgrade coming up. And that's going to be extremely potent for him. There is really no doubt at this point that he's going for a standard, quote, bio ball strategy. Marines and Marauders, a big ball of biological units to blow a great big gaping hole in the Protoss forces. And that will work fairly well. In the meantime, big investment on sentries and stalkers, heavy into the stalkers particularly. The stalkers will do a reasonable job, but to be honest, with big heavy Marines and Marauders, especially if you outnumber them, then the Terran player will be able to succeed in that regard. Now, obviously, Masq has been held back just a little bit by the fact that he constructed that expansion so early. But because NAS didn't get aggressive early on, that disadvantage has effectively disappeared. Bear in mind, things like that are temporary disadvantages. They don't disadvantage you for the entire game. You can recover from it, and indeed, if it's part of your economic plan, you will recover from it. The only way to throw a spanner in the works is for your opponent to get aggressive and catch you when you don't have the kind of defense that you want. NAS right now doesn't have the forces to do it. He would have, and indeed he could possibly pump some out right now, but he's looking at facing off against a defensive line that is going to absolutely murder him. And Masq is able to take out the scout right there. NAS, once again, flying blind. Have a look at the unit count and see what's going on. He's started up his expansion there. Same place as the Terran player. You can't really blame him. Good place to do it. Right now, NAS blowing his way through those rocks as well. I can't really understand why. That's left his expansion now vulnerable. NAS could have very easily just flanked around and gone for it. Looks like he's going to get aggressive now with 12 Stalkers and 4 Sentries against a rather large force of 7 Marauders, 13 Marines. That's about equal, to be honest, especially if he doesn't engage on the bunker line. If he engages on the bunker line, I expect those Protoss to be annihilated. Unfortunately, deciding to get gun-shy and now backing off once again. I cannot really understand why he would have done that. If anything, the longer he waits, the more his advantage slips away. Now 10 Marauders, pumping out plenty, as you can see. More barracks coming up right now. He's got 5 total. No doubt he might go for even more. Really building plenty of supply depots right there. His economic management, absolutely superior. Let's have another look at the income and see just how superior. 1,400 minerals coming in against NASA's 840, and gas now roughly equal. Now, of course, if Masq wants to, he can go even heavier into gas, but with this strategy, he doesn't need to. He's got just enough gas, and he's doing a very good job of spending all of that money that he does, almost always on virtually zero, and that's good. In the meantime, NAS pushing forward at this point in time with a rather hefty force of Stalkers and Sentries. Look at the count, 14 and 7. 14 Stalkers and 7 Sentries right now. Popping a pylon as well, just to keep an eye on things. And again, to be honest, he's waiting too long. Right now, the Terran player has more Marauders than the Protoss player has Stalkers. And he's got plenty of Marines as well to deal with those sentries. Masq on a bit of a patrol there, just to keep an eye on the various probe scouts and doing a good job of repelling them. The Protoss player has no idea what he's about to come up against, and that's going to be his undoing. The problem is, he has waited for far too long, and it's not going to get him anywhere. Now he's warping in additional units and moving in. 18 and 9, ladies and gentlemen. 18 Stalkers, 9 Sentries moving in. It's a potent force, but right now Masq is moving forward, and we're going to get an engagement right here. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Smashing their way through the initial wave of Stalkers. Nice split right there. Force fields deployed, able to split the units down the middle, but to be honest, some of those Marauders are still able to fire from the right, and to be honest, Nash should be backing off to the left and slicing the force in two. He does a fairly good job of that, but unnecessarily leaves himself exposed to fire now from the other group as well, and the Marauders able to now pound on those Stalkers. The shields are down, Guardian shields running out of power, additional reinforcements streaming in, and the sheer weight of numbers able to do immense damage to the Protoss player as he tries to get away, tries to micromanage and hopefully get 2, doesn't manage it. Nas gets away with 2 Stalkers. It's not good at all. This is an extremely bad situation for the Protoss player. His unit count is simply not good enough, and the economy right now of the Terran player almost double that of the Protoss. 2.5k minerals was coming in there. We just saw it. Absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to try and hold the ramp onto his expansion. I bet he's regretting blowing up those rocks. Not that they really stand up all that much against those. Warping additional Stalkers right now. He doesn't have the firepower. The Marauder's able to take apart the initial wave. Now taking fire from the next one. A little bit of focus fire in there. Throwing his probes in as much as he can. It's not going to do the job, unfortunately. The Stalkers are not enough to hold that line. And it's not going to do it. So close to taking out that one. There it goes. Able to drive away that wave. The problem is way more Way more coming in. Look at the production. 7 Marines and 3 Marauders being built as well. Additional Stalkers being warped in there to hold the line. It's not enough. Income absolutely massive in terms of the Terran player, especially after losing all of those probes. Now, more Marauders coming in once again. That force is going to get drawn out and is going to get caught from the side if he's not careful. Nas not quite that stupid. It's not going to happen. But look at that. That's a fantastic ball, and it's going to break through that line without any issues whatsoever. And here it goes, no doubt about it. This is going to absolutely annihilate them. Focusing his fire down, Nas is done, ladies and gentlemen. He's managed to block off the majority of the forces, but he's still got line of sight, able to bring down the fire. Nas gives it up, and good game. Very nicely played by both of our competitors there, but to be honest, the intense macro management, the economic powerhouse of Masq's Terran, able to firmly defeat the Protoss player using little more than Marines and Marauders, simply by weight of numbers. Very well played there, and to be honest, Nas had to have got aggressive early to counter that. He didn't do it, and he paid the price as a direct result of that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit, and you've been watching SHOUTcraft here on Ustream. No, indeed, it was on Ustream. It's now on YouTube in glorious 1080p. Isn't it wonderful? Thanks to our contestants, Nas and Masq triumphing there with a absolutely fantastic display of macro management and economic prowess. I shall see you next time. Good night.